Guys, welcome back to my channel, or for those who are just stumbling on this, hello. My name is Chihea and I have borderline personality disorder. So my plan for this channel was to do half about mental health, half about what I just go through within my regular life. This is kind of the first part of the whole mental health videos that I do want to make. I just want to point out that I'm just really talking from my experiences and through the research that I've done already on my disorder and what I've went through. I don't have a psychology degree. I don't have any other expertise on certain situations that go on with other mental health disorders. However, I have dealt with mental illness for about a decade at this point, so I think I'm quite knowledgeable about certain things. I'm just gonna go talk about what I've been through in my mental health journey, my diagnosis, and just how things are going for me right now. I'm very dehydrated. So my original plan for this video was to do something more theatrical, something more production based with a bunch of like different B-roll like screenshots or something like that. I didn't think that was going to be the most authentic of videos to make. Also, I just didn't have the time to shoot all that, so I'm just gonna come to you and talk to you about my BPD journey. I was diagnosed in July 2018, but I would say I probably was dealing with these symptoms for about 6 years prior to that, honestly. For those of you who don't know, BPD, borderline personality disorder, is a disorder that makes people more inclined to react to things more intensely. So in regards to my own mental health journey, I've always been a pretty emotional child. I would cry over the smallest things, even when they weren't really directed to me. On top of that, I was a very weird kid. I didn't really play with a lot of people. I was bullied throughout elementary school and middle school. So I always kept to myself. Also around that time, I was going through some other emotional, unstable situations that I personally don't want to talk about because it's not fully my story, but those situations did affect me a lot, and I did go to therapy when I was 11, 12 years old, and it did help out quite a bit, but then my parents had to discontinue it just due to their own finances at the time. As time went on, middle school, I got a lot better as things started to die down and I started to gain new friendships with certain people. But like I said before, as I gotten into more situations that elicit more emotions to kind of fire off, those are when my moods just got really bad. So I was a member of the volleyball team at my high school, and obviously emotions would just be all over the place when it came to competitions and all your games and stuff. But during that time, I couldn't really handle it well because I would get so into the game, or I would get so much into how other people felt on my team. Like, my emotions were never like in the middle. If something really good happened to me, I would just be elated for the whole entire day. And then when something minimally sad would happen to me, I would just be depressed for 2 to 3 days. And I didn't really understand what was going on. I thought it was just teenage emotions. But then as I started doing a little bit of research, I realized that that probably wasn't the case. I actually thought what I was going through was PMDD, because I felt like every single time I would have these emotions, it would be during, you know, that time of the month. But as I went to my school counselor to talk about it, it kind of didn't really stick. I feel like one of my first situations that kind of struck out to me when we lost a game around my junior year of high school, and it was technically my fault. I didn't make a serve over the net and we couldn't get a play in. And I remember when we lost that, I put my hands up to my throat. I was like squeezing my throat for a few seconds. After we lost that game, I just went into the stairwell, started slamming on the walls and just thinking to myself, like, why did I do this? Why did I let my team down? Why am I such a terrible player? And then one of my teammates found me and she just consoled me throughout that whole entire time. The rest of the day didn't go well. Yeah. While I was trying to get my driver's license, I failed so many times that I kind of just doubted myself throughout every single time I went through. I remember the day before my last test where I actually passed, I just couldn't go to school. I was so aggressively nervous, so aggressively anxious that I couldn't get out of bed that day. And I just wanted to calm down. I wanted to actually like get some sleep or not think about the possibility of failing again the next day. So sadly, what I did at that time was that I found some sleeping pills my dad would take, and I ended up drinking some of my mom's Zinfandel, and I went to sleep. Luckily, I woke up and I knew that what I did was wrong, and I felt terrible. When I woke up, I felt extremely dizzy. I felt like at any point in time I could just pass out and I wouldn't have known what to do. So I did my best to just make myself move around as much as possible, and more illegally, I drove my dad's car and just drove around the neighborhood just to make myself feel good at that time, knowing that I could do this stuff, but my nerves were just getting to me so bad. So when I started college, everything was going really well, but those emotions weren't really subsiding. There were times when I would want to go out with friends, but then they would forget me in the scenario, and then they would leave me, and I would just be depressed in my dorm room for the rest of the day because I felt like they explicitly wanted to exclude me from whatever fun that they wanted to do. But then I realized that I just didn't find my core group of people yet. So then sophomore year, I joined my sorority and things got a lot better for me. But I would still have those emotions whenever I would deal with people and they would kind of blow me off, or they would disregard what I wanted to do at the time. I remember sophomore year, I was in my car outside my dorm just crying for like 3 hours because there were some people who didn't want to include me in one of their excursions, and I didn't understand why, because we were close beforehand. So why didn't they want to include me at this point? I never really understood it, but I had to forgive them because I feel like that was them reacting to the other people that they were around. I had to forgive a lot of people for what they've done to me because I realized that that's just them being immature. But yeah, I didn't think anything was wrong with me at that point until junior year. Someone kind of important into my life passed away from suicide. I didn't want to let myself go. In January of 2018, I was finally prescribed antidepressants. Now, my antidepressants are very low, but in the end, they did help me curbing my mood swings that I would have, but it didn't get rid of them. At this point, all of the situations where I would have my emotional breakdowns would be when it involved people. Like, there was nothing else that would really occur that would make me that upset. So in around June of 2018, right before my senior year, there was an individual that I had issues with the semester beforehand, and I see him at a graduation party, and for some reason it just riled me up. So then we have this spat through text message, and it just got really ugly. And I was talking to a friend at the time during that situation, and then I kind of just said that I don't think this is how other people react to things. And sure enough, BPD stuck out. So then afterwards, I asked my doctor to have me meet a therapist, and then I met her about 2 weeks later, and then she diagnosed me with BPD, and then we started to work with each other to get my symptoms under control. It was my senior year and I wanted to make the best of it, but someone else didn't want that apparently. Let's just say a lot of people didn't have anyone's back during that time. I was also having issues in regards to my love life, and on top of that, my grandmother was in hospice care during that time. So a lot of things weren't going my way. And because of that, because I craved control over my life, over the situations that were going on, sadly, I chose to self-harm. After some of the reactions that I got from people I told, I just hid it then. But then November 11th, 2018, something bad happened the night before, and I chose to self-harm again that day. And my roommates and one of my sorority sisters found me, and they told me that they called the police to do a wellness check on me. I don't know whether or not that scenario was me trying to get help or if it was just me trying to avoid what was going on throughout my life at that time. So the police came to the house I was living in at the time, and I showed them, you know, the self-harm scars, and they needed to take me to crisis intervention at the hospital close by. Me, my roommate, and my sorority sister went there, and then I chose to stay there voluntarily for about 2 days. Aside from that, I may talk about that later in a different video, but 2 days later, I got out of the hospital and I was gonna go back to my house by college, and I told my roommates I'm coming back, and I asked them to clean because I didn't feel comfortable being in the house in a dirty environment the way I left it. And it wasn't my mess, but that's a different situation. After I got out of the hospital, I felt like I was being treated differently amongst other people. I felt like there were people playing doctor with me. I didn't really have many people there who were actually like just hearing me out and letting me just like vent, except a few girls within my sorority, and I'm very grateful that they were there when they were. I felt like there were a lot of people who wanted to control what I was going through by getting other people involved. I feel like after I got out of the hospital, I translated my self-harm into self-destructive behaviors, such as drinking a lot more and just being more risky with a lot of things and a lot of people. And I still, at that point, would self-harm. But then I kind of realized that I didn't want to do it anymore. I didn't want to harm myself just because other people didn't like me. I wanted to get back control of my life. So I ended up starting to talk about it on social media, about what I've been going through. And I've gotten a lot of support through what I've been talking about. I found other people within my school who actually go through the same thing, who have the same disorder as I do. But even as I was being more vocal about my disorder, I was also kind of not seeing the fruits of my labor. I feel like when I was trying to talk at first about what I went through, that I was doing it so that people would change their opinions about me, that people would stop treating me like crap. At the time, I didn't think that was fine at all. I was still angry. I still felt misunderstood from a lot of people. In March, there was a situation where someone blocked me on Instagram. I ended up yelling to my sorority sister on the phone for an hour and a half, just berating that individual and berating everyone who was friends with them. And it was so bad that at one point campus safety had to get called on me because someone filed a complaint. But luckily they let me alone, and then my sorority sister and 2 others picked me up, brought me back to their house so I can calm down. But they weren't feeling safe about me being alone, so then I was taken to crisis intervention, took me there, and I got released 4 hours later. After that, I just wanted to leave. The people around it were super toxic. Me being away from them was probably the best thing that happened to me. Even after I left, I was still feeling some type of way. I was still dealing with these mood swings once in a while. And then on top of that, I was kind of doubting my therapist at the time. I think that she kept me afloat, but she didn't really help me. So I was also weighing back and forth whether or not I should go to a different therapist. So then my dad found someone that he knew closely, and I started going to her. Honestly, I thank her for my life, because I feel like if I didn't start seeing her, that I would not be here at this point. She actually showed me that there is a possibility for redemption, that there's a possibility that you can barely feel these symptoms if you do the work. And I did the work. I had to realize that I needed to give myself the time to heal. I had to let go of the things that were done to me and the things that I've put myself through and that the universe has put myself through, because this is all a stepping stone for how my life will turn out. And I am strong enough to actually pull through and come out a better person. Obviously, like, the journey is not over, and I still go to therapy once in a while, and I still have these emotional episodes. I'm just willing to, I'm willing to fight. So yeah, that's my story. That's my tale of my journey with BPD. So thank you guys for listening. Like I said, I want to do more mental health videos pretty much pertaining to my journey and what I've learned. If you're interested, please subscribe. And if you want to know a little bit more about BPD, I'll link a few things down below. And I want you guys to have a blessed day, and I'll see you soon.